Good afternoon, everyone. It seems that you're ready to start. So welcome to this webinar on mindfulness for the Competition Bureau. The webinar is going to be about 45 minutes. If you have questions, if there's things that are being mentioned and you've got questions, you could chat them in the chat box, and at the end of the webinar, I could answer them, or I'll give you also an email where you could send questions. So welcome again. The main objective of our webinar today would be, there's two things. First, we want to be sure we have a good introduction, a good understanding of mindfulness, so we are on the same page. So we will do that. And the second thing we're going to do is talk about the challenge, the mindfulness challenge, which is an online training that you could do either in 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, depending if you want to work on it every day or every other day or every 3 days. So we'll talk about that towards the end. This training, as you know, will be available to all the Bureau employees. So I'll talk about that later. So my name is Claire Bone. Because I cannot see you, I cannot tell if there's any of you I know. I've been offering session in the Outaouais and in Ottawa for quite a few years. I am a senior associate at MindWell-U, and I act as a facilitator for them, also as a coach. And I also do counseling, not so much with MindWell-U, but that's another role I play. And when I do coaching and facilitation, it is on topics related to mindfulness, leadership, and well-being. One thing that's important, as we get started, is that you might be interested in knowing that on top of talking about mindfulness, I've been practicing since 2006. I had the chance of training with the team of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn in the States. And it's very interesting to have had a chance to work with Dr. Kabat-Zinn, because he's been very instrumental in making mindfulness mainstream in North America and Europe. So once again, I'm delighted to be here, and we're going to be talking about mindfulness. So I have a metaphor for you to get us started. So the metaphor I've got for you is, how's the traffic in your mind today? What's happening in your mind? Is it busy? Is it cluttered? Is there a traffic jam? Does it feel open? Does it feel foggy? Does it feel like a speedway? Zoom. Does it feel stuck? Or maybe it feels calm. And how is the traffic in your mind on every given day when you come to the Bureau? And another question, how does that impact you? How does that traffic in your mind impacts your ability to perform, your ability to do your work, the ability to be in relationships with your colleagues and clients? And how about at home? How does the traffic in your mind impact your relationships at home with your close ones? And another question for you, and what is impacting this traffic in your mind? Don't know how long you've been in the workplace, but the work environment has changed a lot in the past 5, 10, 20 years. If I pick an example, I pick email as an example. If you've been in a workplace for a long time, remember 10 years ago, you had way less email. Like now, it's like boom, 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 one after the other. How about 20 years ago, if you've been in the workplace longer? Well, 20 years ago, I think the email was just starting. So that must not have been a lot of email. So that would be one last information in bombarding us. So today we've got all of those deadlines, the pressure. We are with our technology, our communications. We are connected 24/7, and sometimes it's difficult to do the divide between the personal and the professional. And all of those circumstances in modern life are affecting our mind. They're affecting our brain. They're affecting our ability to pay attention and to be present. They're also affecting our emotional centers. So it's not to say we want to go back in time and we want to throw out our devices and everything. That's not what we're saying. But one thing we do have to realize is that the busyness of today's life is affecting our brains, it's affecting our mind, and there are tools that are useful that we need to use and we can turn to optimize our brains, our minds, and our bodies. And what's important to know is mindfulness is one of these tools that can help us regulate and rebalance our nervous system, and it can help our focusing, uh, so we pay better attention. I have something interesting to share with you. For some of us, we've heard about mindfulness, but we find it a bit obscure. We've heard about it, but maybe we don't have a practice. We have not tried it out, so we don't exactly know how it works. Or maybe we tried it once and we say, well, it didn't work. So we have an expectation that it will work instantly. And so for us, some of us, it's not as obvious as it could be. And it's not, every time something becomes big, something is known. There was a time before, or there's a time in between where it's still a bit obscure. So check it out. First image, I've got a silly questions to ask you. Who's got a toothbrush, electric or others? Well, what a question, right? Well, in the 1700s, nobody had toothbrushes. If they felt they had stain on their teeth and they didn't like it, they would wipe it out. But people didn't have toothbrush until Mr. Addis started making them, and they probably looked a bit like the image there. And then, as the 1700 progressed, his business was doing better and better because people were buying toothbrushes. And by the time of his death, I mean, his business was really flourishing. It was really doing well because it had become obvious. Yeah, having a toothbrush and brushing your teeth is a good thing. Look in the middle, regular physical exercise, jogging. Well, before the 1970s, there was not too many people running on the street. If you saw someone running, they were either late for an appointment, they were about to miss their bus, or someone was running after them. So when we saw someone running, we would check in what's happening here. Today, you don't even think twice when you see someone running. Like the other time, there was a snowstorm and I saw people running. I said, well, they're jogging. Okay. So taking care of our body, doing physical exercise, it's obvious now. If we look at the pictures to the right, the non-smoking sign, well, not so long ago, but you didn't see those very often. You could smoke almost everywhere. In shopping mall, in your office, even in hospital room. It didn't matter if you were a smoker or non-smoker, people could smoke in the room. And so it's different. It became obvious that smoking is not a healthy habit. And so we see a lot of non-smoking sign today. And the last picture, which is really relevant to what we're talking about, is mental exercise, mental training. So that's what we're talking about today. And it's becoming more and more obvious because we know about the benefits. And what has helped um, a mental exercise, mindfulness, become more obvious? Well, a lot of things have helped. One of the things is there are articles everywhere, and there's serious ones, there's less serious ones, but there's a lot of articles, so people hear more and more about that. So it's very common. Another thing that has helped is research. So if you check it out, we have this table dating from the late 80s, where there was very few research. There was some it started, and some of the research that were the most common at that time were medical research about mindfulness. And for example, I'm pretty sure Dr. Kabat-Zinn contributed to a lot of medical research because that's how he got interested in mindfulness for his patients, to see what was the stress and in a medical setting. But if you look, there's more and more and more articles. So it has gone way beyond the medical field, like cognitive sciences, psychology, human sciences, education. So I don't know if you've heard your children, either the little ones or the teenagers, saying, "Oh yeah, I had a mindfulness practice." And of course, it will be adapted to their level of development, but more and more the school is doing mindfulness to help emotional regulation and also focus. And now we're here, organizational are interested in mindfulness for leadership, for organizational health, for performance, because we know about the benefits of mindfulness. So we talk about the context of mindfulness. Let's do an activity just to try it out. So what I would like you to do, I would like you to think about one thing, like one thought for 30 seconds. So not a thought from different perspective continuing on, one thought. So when I say go, so just think about something, and when I say go, we'll start. One thing. Go. As I'm bringing you back, where is your mind? Is it still on that one thing? Or have you thought about all kind of things? Did the mind wandered away? Have you noticed that? Did it go on several things, or that thought moving or changing topic, or maybe judgment came, or preferences, or thoughts about not wanting to do this activity and why are we doing that? Well, welcome to the nature of the human mind. The mind is a wondering, always wondering, and it loves to make up stories about what we like, what we don't like. So it is not easy to maintain focus on one thing, even for 30 seconds. So that is something we've realized. I have a few more questions for you about the mind. So one of the question is about, have you ever read an entire page of an article or a book and realize at the end you have no idea what you just read? Where was the mind? How about have you ever found yourself switching from one thing to the other and not actually finishing what you originally set up to do? And sometimes also going to a place, either the cubicle of one of your colleague, and you get there and you don't even know why you're there, or at home, you set up to go to the kitchen for whatever reason. You're in the kitchen and you say, why am I there? How about, have you ever found yourself in a meeting or in a conversation with someone when you weren't actually paying attention, like that gentleman in the blue shirt? Maybe you were better than him in the sense that you were at least faking. You were going, yes. And your mind wasn't there. You were just going through the motion. You were elsewhere. So what's happening here? Where was your mind? Where does your mind go? As we're all together in this webinar, your body is here. Your body is on a chair somewhere at the bureau. But is your mind there as well, or is your mind wandering? And when the mind wanders, where does it go? Well, when the mind is not present, when you're not present, your mind will have a tendency to go to the past or to the future. So, question for you: when your mind is not present, when you're not here, are you in the past or are you in the future? So just reflect on that. I will speak to the people who go more to the past when they're not present. Well, when you're in the past, are you thinking about wonderful memories of your childhood or that wonderful trip you took last year? Is that what you're thinking about when you're in the past? Or are you thinking about problems that happen, or things that didn't go the way you wanted? That meeting where someone said something and then you're there ruminating about it. So what would it be? Is it like thinking about good memories or more ruminating? It should not have been that way, and why did it go that way, and I don't want it to go that way. If you were people who are more in the future, when you go to the future, is it because you're thinking about a wonderful project that's coming up? Is that what you do when you're in the future? Or are you worrying? Are you thinking about what could go wrong? Are you trying to control and over plan? So you have a sense of control and making sure things go the way you want. And so what is it? Well, one thing, and you know what happened if we just go to the future and worry a lot? Well, it builds up anxiety. So too much time in the future, it builds up anxiety, and too much time in the past, ruminating, leads to a low mood and depressive states. So that time that we spend not here, which is the only place where we really exist, creates difficulty. As I was telling you at the beginning, on top of working with MindWell-U, I'm also an EAP counselor with one of the EAP companies. And one thing, I mean, I cannot share details because of confidentiality, but one thing I can tell you is the number of calls that we receive and the number of visits we receive with people, with our clients dealing with anxiety and depression is just staggering. And I've been working for 5 years over there, and the numbers are going up. So, so what are we saying here? So our society, what we're seeing in society is that minds are spinning out of control. We spend so much time in the past ruminating, or in the future worrying. We're not in the present. And there's a tool, and that's what we're talking about today, the practice of mindfulness that can help us regulating our attention to stay present, where our life really exists. And also that tool strengthens the pathways to help us stay there and stay focused. I have a nice picture for you, and here's the picture. I like this picture because it's a nice definition and a nice illustration of mindfulness. So you look at the bubble to the right. The bubble to the right, that is what mindfulness is. Being there with what's really there, seeing what's there, feeling what's there, hearing what's there, what's really there. Not what you imagine, what you create, what you daydream about, what could be better someday. Just being totally there, as opposed to the bubble to the left where the person is stuck in the to-dos and what's coming next and all of the thoughts and ruminating and over planning, in the sense that they're creating that anxiety about what could go wrong. And all of those places are not here. They're not the present moment. And when we are lost in all of those thoughts, like the bubble to the left, what happened is that we are strengthening some uh, some portions, some sections of our brain. We are strengthening our default mode. The default mode is the mode, we also call it automatic pilot. When we leave our mind, well, we not even leave, sometimes we're not even aware, but when our mind wanders. And our default mode is located at the front, and it's also located inside, like really inside, deep through at the back. And what happens when we spend too much time in the default mode is that we make it stronger and we're not present. Harvard University did a research in 2010, and they realized that we were in automatic pilot, lost in thought 50% of the time, half of our life. And some people, it's even stronger, it's bigger, it's higher than 50. So, what we're trying to do with mindfulness is to activate new pathways, not the pathways of the default network, but new pathways to stay more present, more focused. And we're doing that through mindfulness practice. So, let's get involved into a mindfulness practice, a short one, 2 to 3 minutes, and that will help our wandering mind to be more present. So we'll do a mental exercise for about 2 or 3 minutes. I will invite you to be comfortable when you're sitting. So I'm going to make myself more comfortable. I'm going to be grounded. I'm going to put my feet on the floor. I want my body to be straight in order to allow good breathing, because we're going to use the breath as an instrument to help us with our mindfulness practice. And why the breath? It's always there. And the breath is always in the present. So that's why we're using it. So just get comfortable and start noticing your breath. Where do you feel it more? Do you feel it more at the nostril level? Do you feel it more at the breast level? Do you feel it more at the belly level? Where do you feel your breath the most? As you inhale, as you exhale, and if your attention drifts and you're not paying attention to your breath, bring your attention back to the breath with benevolence, without judgment, with curiosity and openness, with patience. Bring it back to the breath. again and again, without judgment, with openness, with patience. Bring your attention back to the breath. Have the intention of keeping your attention on the breath. Again and again, bring your attention back to the breath as we are near the end. Bring it back. So, as I'm bringing you back, what have you noticed? What have you noticed about this mindfulness practice for your wandering mind? I want to share with you what we just did. And it's interesting because it will provide one definition to mindfulness. So, what we were doing, we have realized that our mind is wandering. So, we had set up the intention to bring our attention back and back and back to the breath with an attitude of mindfulness. And our attitude was non judgment, openness, and patience. So we did that. That's what we did. So, what's interesting with that definition that comes from Dr. Shauna Shapiro, what's interesting, it gives us a definition for our mindfulness practice when we do a practice. That's what we do. She's got also another definition. This one is not so much what we did, but it's more a state. It's more what you're going to notice as you do more and more mindfulness practice and you have easier access to mindfulness. So, Dr. Shapiro says that mindfulness is seeing clearly in order to respond effectively. Well, that's what mindfulness is. That's what mindfulness does. So what do we see clearly? Well, there's several things we could see clearly. As we've noticed through this webinar, thoughts come. So being more aware of thoughts. So we could pay attention to thoughts happening. So we're going under the hood where we are paying attention. We're seeing more clearly that there's thoughts. Our mind is wandering. And then we could bring it back to mindfulness. And other things that we could also see clearly or pay attention are emotions. Our emotions brewing. Emotions can bring us away from mindfulness. They can trigger us. So we are reactive. We are not responding anymore. Body sensations. The body will send you messages that, you are distraught or you are triggered or you're all stressed out, you feel it sometimes. You feel all contracted or all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I've got no neck. But, you need to pay attention for that. Also, our behaviors, our actions are another way you could pay attention. Another thing that you could see clearly and that allows you to be more mindful. So paying attention to these things that are more under the hood, but we can see clearly allow you to gain awareness, to see clearly, to be mindful. So those are things we could do to be mindful, to see clearly. So I just want, just before we move to the second part, which is shorter about the mindfulness challenge, I just want to talk about myths. So here, what do we mean in this little cartoon? Well, the thing is, people think that mindfulness might be a religion. You gotta like belong to a religion, and no, it's a mind practice. It's mind training to be more present. So it's not a religion. It's not a dogma. There's not a theory of rules. You got to do this, wear that, eat that. It's not that. You don't need to be a monk. You don't need to sit in the lotus positions. I mean, when I do longer practice and I sit, I don't sit in the lotus positions. My legs have difficulty with that. So it's not that. It's not that. It's mind training based on scientific research. Another thing also I want to say about that cartoon is if you see the little joke at the bottom, are you not thinking what I'm thinking? Well, the thing is, people think, oh, mindfulness. Oh, I'm not mindful. I have thoughts. I don't have a clear, empty mind. Well, mindfulness is not having a clear, empty mind. It might happen. It's, with practice, sometimes there will be less wandering. But the thing is, what is important for you to realize is mindfulness is cultivating constant, regular, open, not judgmental attention about what is happening now in in the present moment. So it's not escaping elsewhere. So thoughts are there. Just realize the thoughts and come back. So that is what mindfulness is. So that were some of the myths I wanted to share. And the mindfulness is being present with what's here. Last thing I want to share with you is the concept of neuroplasticity. You probably heard about it, and I alluded to it a bit earlier in the presentation when I had my brain, my second brain. So this brain was interesting. I know this one is plastic, but that's what I want to say. Neuroplasticity means the brain is plastic. Plastic in the sense that it can change. It can change by what we pay attention to, what we do all day long. So if we spend a lot of time in the default mode, leaving our mind wander, well, guess what? We are activating that part of the brain and making it stronger and stronger. If we decide to do more mindfulness practice as we did, like for example with the breath or with other techniques we're going to show you in the mindfulness challenge, then you strengthen other parts in the brain. And this has been seen and observed and studied with fMRI, and they've seen that the brain can change structurally. The structure change, so it means that certain areas become thicker because there's more neurons, there's more cells there. And they also see that the structure, when the structure change, it changed the functions. So your brain can do other things. So the brain can develop the habit of staying present more easily. So that concept of neuroplasticity really helps us understand how we can become more mindful. It's a question of training. All right, so what we want to do now, we want to go into a little video that will explain the mindfulness challenge.
If you're like most people, your mind is busy and wanders 50% of the time. Instead of being present and experiencing the moment, you're on autopilot and get caught up thinking about the past and future. All this thinking causes stress, unhappiness, and is even a barrier to a good night's sleep. After all, consider what we're missing when we're stuck in our heads. An important moment with family or friends, the real message being communicated in an important conversation, or a critical piece of information that could have taken you to the next level. You get the idea. A proven way to get out of our heads and into our lives, all while lowering stress, increasing joy, and improving performance, is mindfulness training. Now imagine if the training was online, accessible on your phone, and just 5 minutes a day. Oh yeah, you can also choose a buddy to take it with you because evidence shows that the buddy system works. Sound too good to be true? Take the 30-day mindfulness challenge and see for yourself. It will change your life.
All right, so the video explain the mindfulness challenge. I'll give you a few more explanation, and we're going to get involved in one of the fundamental practice, the Take 5, which is explained several times in the 30-day challenge. So how does it could be 30, 60 or 90, depending what you decide. How does the mindfulness challenge work? As it was explained in the video, it's 5 to 10 minutes a day. And in that 5 to 10 minutes, what happened? Well, there are podcasts, there's a journal, you could do exchange with your buddy, there are mini videos, there are practices that are explained. It's you could do it online anytime, you could use any device. You do it for different amount of days, depending if you want to do it every day, every second day, or every third day. And as I was explained in the video, you could invite a colleague, a buddy to join you in the challenge. And one thing that we know is that when, like, for example, going to the gym, when we've got someone to go with, it helps the motivation, it helps the engagement, it helps the support. So we really suggest that you invite a buddy that could start. They could start the challenge with you. So one thing I want to talk about the Take 5. It's, when you hear Take 5, people hear, let's take a break. And sometimes it's a 5-minute break. That's not exactly what we mean. We meant Take 5, take a break, and we wanted to do a little pun with that. What's nice with the Take 5, it's a fundamental practice for mindfulness that is part of the challenge. This is mindfulness in action, so we could bring it anywhere, everywhere. It's a time in rather than a time out, and it allows you to come back to yourself and be mindful. One of the things that I want you to know about the Take 5, it is adaptive coping. It is an adaptive coping tool. What you see here with the lady, that's maladaptive. What she's doing, she is ruminating. She's going on and on and on in her head. So that's maladaptive coping, and it creates pathways in the brain that are not healthy. So what's nice with the Take 5, it is adaptive. One thing that I think I mentioned that, but just to explain it again, one thing that's important that we talked about with neuroplasticity, it works both ways. You can change your brain for the better or for the worse. So Take 5 is a tool that allows you to change the connections for the better, not like what the lady was doing. She was changing her brain for not the better. So Take 5 is adaptive. All right, so let's do it quickly and just experience it for the first time. It doesn't have to be 5 minutes. It could be shorter. It's got 5 steps. You don't have to do the 5-step, and you're going to be invited to personalize your Take 5. So let's go with the first step. The first step is notice the cue. What's the cue? Well, it depends. You could the cue could be every time you sit in front of your computer and you have to write maybe an email that take more reflection. Maybe that's your cue. Every time you do that, you're going to do a Take 5. It could be before brushing your teeth. That's your signal to do a Take 5. For today, we're together, and your cue is me saying, we're going to do a Take 5. We're going to try a Take 5. Step 2. Step two, notice something new with your senses. Could you look at something you haven't seen before in your environment? Can you hear something? Are you feeling the touch of your seat or the floor or the fabric of your clothes? How about smell? Any smell? How about taste? Maybe you just had a taste of something, a snack. Or if you open your mouth and just breathe, does it taste anything? So using the five senses to really come back to the body. So it's step two. Step three, notice the body. Notice the body. And we're going to do a mini scan. So let's start with your feet. Notice your feet. Notice maybe a pressure, the pressure of the ground, the pressure of your shoes. So feel your feet. Feel your hips. Feel your hips. Feel feel yourself being sitting on the chair. Feel your hips. Feel your core. Feel your core. Feel your posture. What kind of posture were you having? Engage the core. Now your shoulders. How are your shoulders? Were you like this? How are your shoulders? Roll back the shoulders. Feel the shoulders. How about the neck and the head? Did you notice you have no neck anymore? How's the head? Is it well balanced? So notice the body. Step four. We've done that before. We're just going to extend it a bit. Notice the breath. Let's take a breath. Breathe in for 5, a count of 5. And breathe in for a count, breathe out for a count of 5. Let's do 4 more. Three more. Breathe in, count of 5. Breathe out, count of 5. 2 more. Last one. And step 5, as we are ready to move on to our next activities, can we bring what we created through our Take 5, the mindful attitudes that were present as we were doing the Take 5, the non-judgment, the openness, the being curious, having an open mind, and the patience? Can we bring it to whatever we are doing next? So that was our Take 5. You will see as you're doing the mindfulness challenge, every time you see a page like that with a recording, that's maybe suggestions how to do your Take 5 so that you can create a personalized Take 5 that works for you. And you don't have to be online for the Take 5. I mean, yes, when you're learning it, but after it's integrated, the Take 5 is always there. It's there before you enter a meeting. It's there before you start a presentation. It's there whenever before you are involved in a conversation. So Take 5 is really an essential practice that MindWell-U created based on research. Before I don't know about you, and I'm a coach, so when I ask my clients, to get involved in a new practice, I don't know about you, but I need that, and my clients need that. So what is it going to bring me? What is it going to give me? Because I'm going to have to to spend a bit of time. It will require some effort. So what we did, our clients are usually asked to answer a questionnaire at the beginning and at the end, and the Saunders School of Business did it twice, and in 2016 and in 2017. And here's what they reported. So some of the benefits, evidence-based, of mindfulness is good things. Look at the good things that were increased: resilience, engagement, emotion regulation, a leadership that's more present, better collaboration. So good things. And look, at some bad things were reduced. The reactivity that can create hurtfulness, rudeness, disrespect was reduced. So those are good benefits that we could gain. I look at a government employee sharing that. So he brought his practice, he brought his mindfulness to a meeting. So he is less reactive, he's more open. So that's one of the benefits he saw for himself. In order to register for the challenge, here's the link. You will receive other communications where you will have this link and you could register. You could also register your buddy, just write their email address so they will start the challenge at the same time as you. And in closing, I'll stay around for questions. But in closing, anybody who's a musician here or really enjoy music and play an instrument, would you agree that one of the first thing you would do before playing an instrument is to tune it? Well, that's my invitation to you. How about we tune our instrument? How about we tune our mind, our brain, in order to perform better, in order to be more present, in order to be able to maintain our attention? So tuning our own instrument. If there are any questions, I will stay put. You could write them in the chat. You could also write to us at the email address that you see on screen. And as I'm closing, for the people who will leave the webinar, who have no questions, I really want to wish you a good challenge. I really want to wish you good luck, good practice, and good mindfulness. It was a pleasure being with you. I'll stay put for a little longer for the people who might have questions. And I was really happy to share that with you. I hope it really helps you. So good challenge and good luck. So I'll stay put if there are any questions.